So why don't you hit record, and that way we'll have a constant recording of it.
Okay.
Whether I get kicked out or not.
Sounds good. I am currently recording.
Okay, excellent. That means it'll download to your, it's actually better that way because it'll download to your computer and you can upload it to the Hainesport Democrats YouTube channel.
Okay, great. Hey, Dan.
Hey, good evening, everybody. How we doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I think Anna got stuck again. Nice pose. Anyway, we'll probably just wait a few more minutes before we actually get started, I guess, with this meet and greet. Any football fans?
Absolutely.
How about fantasy football? Any fantasy football fans?
Nah.
Not me. That's too much.
I have a big decision tonight. I don't know if I should start Kareem Hunt against the Bengals or wait to see if A.J. Brown is going to be healthy enough to play on Sunday.
Fantasy has forever changed the way we watch football in the house now because, well, and the red zone, because you don't, unless the Eagles are playing, it's just the red zone for the rest of the day.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I kind of don't like it, because I don't want to be put in a position where I need to root against my team, which I'm sorry to say is the Giants. Sorry, everybody. But
No, Giants fan here also.
Woo!
Absolutely.
Okay, I got kicked again, Jim, but it says it's still recording, so I think you being in control of the recording is better.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Got anyone else?
We're just talking football.
That's fine. We're just going to keep chit-chatting a little bit longer before we get going with the meet and greet. But anyone who's here, please feel free to chime in. Tell us who you support. I'm Eagles.
I already said Giants. I'm sure everybody else is Eagles.
No,
I'm a New England girl, so I'm a Pats fan.
Oh, nice. Are you also a Buccaneers fan?
No.
Okay. My brother-in-law, he's a big Patriots fan, but he loves Tom Brady, and so he's also following Tom Brady with the Bucs.
I think Tom Brady's had an amazing career. I'm sure he had his reasons to go from the Patriots over to the Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see him do well, but
just not against the Patriots.
It's just where my heart lies.
Understood.
That's fine. It's fair enough. And my husband's a Jets fan, for goodness sake. Anyway, I did want to note that a freeholder or commissioner, Dan McConnell, is on the call.
Yes.
Hi, Dan.
Good evening, everybody.
Appreciate it. Are you officially a commissioner yet, or are you still a freeholder?
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to transition things as it comes along, Anna. Because they passed a law in the legislature and the governor signed it, that doesn't take effect until January 1. But where we can, we're going to try and not use the name as much. But when it comes to like legal documents, we still have to use that until the 1st. But you can call me anything, and I prefer Dan.
Dan is good. I just wanted to acknowledge that we do have one of the Burlington County Board of Governors, or whatever you want. And thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it, Dan.
My pleasure. Thanks.
One of you present. How's everything going at the county level?
I think we're doing pretty well. I'm liaison to the Department of Health and Public Safety and Public Works. And I tell people all the time, I tell my neighbors when they ask me about county government, I said, I wish you could meet the professionals that work for us every day. I think the average person would have a little bit of a different outlook or a different take on government. We have a lot of really talented and very good people, and we're very fortunate to have them.
Yeah, things seem to have been going well in Burlington County.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen, this Saturday from 10 to 12, we're having our 11th food drive. We've been partnering with the Food Bank of South Jersey and Farmers Against Hunger. I've participated in one before this, and I'll be there on Saturday with some of my with some of my colleagues. And it's amazing to see how many people are in need.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue, unfortunately, for some time.
Yeah, Dave and I just stopped by the food bank yesterday. In fact, we dropped off a contribution, and we got a nice little tour of the facility. And we were talking to, I think Keith is his name, the CEO, president.
Yeah.
So he basically said the same thing you just did, Dan. You know, they've seen a lot more families in need because of COVID, and
Yes.
they don't see it dying down anytime soon. So we're going to do what we can to support.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool thing that you guys did that.
Yeah, it was neat. It was educational for me also.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Well, thank you both so much. We appreciate all the help we can get.
I think he said for every $1 donated, they're able to provide 3 meals.
It's quite amazing what some of these groups can do with small donations. You know, sometimes people don't donate because they think, oh, it's not enough. Right now, every little bit helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, do we want to be getting started, gentlemen, with your little prepared introductions? We'll
Yeah.
give people a few more minutes to join in. It's 10 past.
It's up to you, Anna. You want to give it 5 more minutes, or
5 more minutes?
we can start now? It's up to you.
Well, let's give it a few more minutes and see if
Okay.
it is the same. We'd like to thank everyone again for joining us. We really appreciate it. We know you've got other demands on your time, and those of us who are spending so much time behind the computer screen already, like myself with the teaching. And just Scott's raising his hand. Yeah, and Jim, yeah, you guys are both doing the same sort of thing from your on a computer all day in your day job. It's I understand that it's putting you out to make you come and do another hour behind the computer screen, but we appreciate it.
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody used to school at the remote learning. How's it going for you guys? Amanda, you have little ones, right?
Oh, yeah, it's my daughters are both in 1st grade here in Hainesport, and I'm actually surprised at how smoothly everything's been going. I think, you know, there is a lot of credit given to the administration. They've tried to explain to people the reasoning behind doing things. You know, whether you agree with the reasoning or not, they're trying to explain how they've come up with these plans that they're really trying to keep safety in mind as they make all of these plans. And I really give the teachers a lot of credit, because I think that when you're teaching and you have all the kids in the classroom and you're able to control that environment and control how they're going to start off their day, it's totally different than when they're at their home and they have toys to distract them and they have different adults there to distract them. I think if I had to hear 10 kids ask me at 9:30 in the morning when lunch is, I would probably not be as calm as their teacher is. So yeah, and every single teacher, they seem to be very flexible, which I think is the biggest thing, is that they've all acknowledged that this is not ideal for anybody. It's not ideal for the teachers. It's not ideal for the parents. It's not ideal for the kids. So whatever they can do to make things easier on the parents and the kids, they're willing to do.
That's nice. It's good to hear.
That I think has really been impressive. I think Lauren Sauls has reached out to me a few times just to, you know, see, you know, if I was comfortable with, you know, having them both in the same class, you know, to make sure we didn't pick up a laptop from the school. She wanted to make sure that we didn't miss it. So just, yeah, I think that is something as hard as it can be for everybody. I've heard a lot of horror stories from other school systems.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing that just, I have a bunch of friends in East Hampton, and they put out signs. They gave signs to all the kindergartners to make them feel a little bit more welcome. And they had the wrong graduation date from the school system on there.
Sure,
and it was interesting seeing people saying that's not the year they're graduating. You're like, oh yes, no, you add 9 onto the year. It's like, no, they're gonna be the class of 2029, not the class of 2030. And
That's a big difference.
right.
and it's like watching people argue, like, no, they're gonna be in school for 9 years. Like, and somebody actually counted out the years. So I think they said they're just gonna get stickers so the kids can slap them onto the signs, which is, I feel bad there, as I'm sure somebody thought this would be a great idea, and then to do that. So I'm like, all right, at least we haven't done that yet
Right.
to the kids.
Right.
But yeah, no. And then my stepson is at WVU, and they've been doing a lot of hybrid there. Everybody had to get tested before they came onto campus, and they've really been limiting things. And I think they had an issue where there were too many people at the bars. So the president of the university contacted the governor of the state, and the governor then closed down all the bars in the town through executive order. At the school president's insistence. So it's nice to see that they're taking it seriously there then too.
That's good.
So luckily, yes, it's all of our schooling COVID stuff has been very positive so far.
Good. I think Anna froze again.
She might have.
Yeah.
That
We'll wait for her to
same
come back
connection.
and then we'll get started.
So what was everyone's favorite speaker at the DNC? Who was your favorite speaker at the DNC, Jim?
I'm thinking.
Well, you're thinking, Jim, I don't know that I had a favorite speaker, but I thought that the way they took the role of the states, and I've already heard other delegates that were at the convention say, we should never go back to the old way.
Right.
I probably enjoyed it so much because we're all indoors and not going anywhere. It was kind of like a travel log of the 50 states, but I mean, it gave every state like a little chance for a little commercial to the rest of the country. I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, it was heartwarming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great word.
I think my favorite speaker was probably Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
I thought not only was her message on point, but her delivery was perfect. And I just love everything about her.
Okay. Dave, who was your
Even
favorite speaker?
Jill Biden, like the way she'd set up in the classroom, I thought that was
Okay.
really sweet too.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed them all.
Dave, who was your favorite speaker there at the DNC?
Actually, didn't watch.
Oh, really? Okay.
I couldn't.
Just the highlights.
Yeah, that's great.
I think
Okay.
my favorite was the 12-year-old
Oh, yeah.
and the stutter.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And just his personal story about how he's had this problem and how Joe Biden really reached out to him to let him know that you can be great still with that, and this is how he's overcome it. And just talk like I like the message there. Really was central to the entire convention is that Joe Biden cares about you.
Yeah.
And he cares about your story, and he cares about what he can do personally to try to help you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I think that's enough chit chat. Get started on the action point part of the evening. So we're going to begin with Jim and Dave just doing a short personal introduction, and then we will move to questions from the audience because, of course, that is what we are here to do. So Jim, are you going to get started?
Sure. Thank you, Anna. All right. So, well, as you guys know, I'm Jim Horowitz. I'm running for Hainesport Township Committee. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. I grew up in Monroe Township, New Jersey. I lived in East Windsor and Hightstown for a short while, where I met my future wife, Amy. We got married in June of 2001. Shortly after, we bought our townhouse in Hainesport. We have two amazing daughters. Rebecca currently goes to a private special needs school, and Rachel just started middle school here in Hainesport. We recently added our dog Phoebe to our family after a 3-year hiatus of not even having a pet, which was really hard for me to not have a dog. I graduated from Mercer County Community College with an associate's in applied science. Network engineering was my field of study, and I'm currently employed by a contact center marketing services company as one of their lead systems engineers. In 2016, we all know what the outcome was from that election. I was disappointed, disheartened, as I'm sure many of you were. My daughters were young, but they really wanted Hillary to be the first female president, and you can imagine their disappointment too. In 2018, I was given the opportunity to run for Township Committee, and at that time, I felt that it would be a great way to set a positive example for my children. I wanted them to know that if there's something that just doesn't feel right, they have the power to make a change. And that's why I'm running again this year. Now, things didn't go our way in 2018 in Hainesport, but we're hoping that our neighbors will give Dave and I the opportunity to serve. So thank you very much. Anna, you're still muted.
Yeah, it's good etiquette to keep yourself muted if you're not speaking, because otherwise there's a feedback issue if you don't know that. But now I'm going to hand it over to Dave for similar.
Hi, I'm Dave Moats. I grew up in Kansas, Nebraska, New Mexico, Midwest pretty much. And so we ended up here. I finished high school in Permanent High School. Joined the Navy. And of all the places, all the countries I've been to, there's no doubt that New Jersey was a place where I had to live. So I came back here. And I've been working as a copier repair tech. And so I live here in Hainesport with my wife Jess of 10 years and my son Grayson and my stepson Jake, who is going to Rowan University right now. And yeah. So we're just we're hoping to make some changes and bring some positive things to the Hainesport community. That's pretty much it.
Nice.
Thank you. Well, that's probably a good place to start with a question while the audience gets warmed up. What are some of the positive changes that you guys want to introduce in Hainesport? Sorry about my dog, I'll mute myself. But please, go ahead, tell us.
I have a feeling that some of these answers are going to be repeated throughout the evening, but when I talk about positive changes, I'm thinking about like a vision that maybe we have for Hainesport. Now, I don't know how much we can actually change, but I guess my question would be to everybody else, like, what do you think of when you think of Hainesport? You know, I think maybe some of you might answer, it's just a town that you drive through on your way to Mount Laurel or Mount Holly, or maybe to get your car worked on. There's a lot of auto repair shops on 38. You know, I kind of want Hainesport to be a destination, not just a pass through. I think the Route 38 corridor needs some work, right? I mean, we have businesses on 38. I think storefronts are looking dilapidated. And I think the township could step in, or maybe should step in and say, hey, you know, maybe you guys need to clean up, you know, let's make it look nicer. Let's make it attractive, you know, for people driving through. As they're driving through, they'll say, hey, this is a nice, cute little town. You know, what does it have to offer? So that's kind of what I'd like to see.
And Dave, have you got something to add to that?
Yeah, what I'd really like to see is there's different communities here in Hainesport with different concerns and things that different people, you know, they see that they need in their communities, whether it be sidewalks or streetlights or a playground. And I'd like to make it so that when people have needs or concerns, that they can reach out openly and get honest, respectful answers back in any format, and make everything as open as possible, so that nobody feels that they're being ignored or overlooked.
Let's throw it open to the audience and the residents. What do you think of those responses? So, is there something specific that you would like to see in Hainesport? Or any other questions that you might have that you have thought you'd bring here to get the candidates to answer?
I actually have a question for both Jim and Dave. That there's been a lot of chatter about some of the proposed low-income housing going into the town, specifically the development that's being proposed for the Creek Road area. It sounds like a lot of the residents, number one, they feel like it hasn't been as transparent, that it sounds like people weren't necessarily aware that this was all signed off on in December. And there's a lot of concern about the location of the housing. They're worried about the traffic in that area, and that people like to see that it sounds like people don't want to see that housing just kind of pushed off into one area. They'd like to see that housing kind of spread throughout the town. So I guess my question for you is that with the low income housing, do you have any thoughts as far as the Creek Road location? You know, any thoughts as to how we might be able to better fulfill that low income housing requirement that we have with the state? And then what would you like to see us do to improve the transparency of this sort of planning as far as with the master plan and the planning board?
Dave, you want to go first?
Sure. My main thought is when I drive to Longbridge, I drive past 2 abandoned houses, and there's an abandoned house right here on my block. There's abandoned houses all throughout Hainesport, and what I feel like we should be doing is buying up these houses and working with Habitat for Humanity to fulfill our low-income needs instead of trying to cram it in some corner of Hainesport that's frankly just not set up to handle that kind of traffic. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not sure what our obligation is on how many housing units we need to provide. As far as the Creek Road location, I'm with you. I think I'm with you. Although I want to see affordable housing in Hainesport, I don't think that is the best location. I think that you're limiting your egress onto Creek Road, and with that train bridge and the train tracks behind it, you just don't have, I don't think you have the capacity to allow for all the traffic that will be generated from a location there. As far as where it would go, well, I mean, I thought that the land near ShopRite would have been a nice piece of land for housing. A couple of years ago, it was my idea that, well, I shouldn't say my idea, but it was my vision that to put up like a Hainesport town center where you have restaurants and shops and then apartments maybe above that. That's not going to come to fruition, but yeah, I'm not sure where we would, yeah, I don't think, like Dave said, I don't think we should lump them all into one location and say, this is our affordable housing area. You know, it should be spread out so that way everybody feels that they're a part of the Hainesport community.
Yeah, if I could just add to that too. I mean, when you, actually, no, I don't want to add to that. Never mind.
Well, I'd like to ask both of you to address Amanda's question about transparency, because I think in addition to the whole where should the affordable housing be, one of the issues that this problem has brought to light is that people just weren't aware. How do we get the community more integrated into the planning process for these things?
Well, I mean, it's all about communication, right? I mean, I bring this up where I work, that I think that our leadership needs to communicate more with the employees so that we know what's going on and so that we are better able to perform our jobs if we know what the vision is of leadership. And I think that has to take place at the township level as well. They are not just a committee of 5 people that make decisions for everybody. I think they represent the town, and they should be communicating with the town and say, hey, you know, we have to do this, and we were thinking of doing this. What do you guys think? You know, so I think it definitely has to be put out for the residents to at least have the opportunity to speak about it rather than find out months later that this is happening. You know, I mean, I like to utilize Facebook. I know a lot of committee members maybe don't like to go on Facebook as much. Or they don't have a social media presence, but I think Facebook is a great opportunity to be able to get the word out. You know, we would definitely use our page for that.
Yeah.
Well, also the township group, Hainesport Happenings, I've sensed a certain amount of frustration at times from residents who post questions in Hainesport Happenings that seem to be directed at the committee and then getting nothing back from the committee, right? The committee seem to be all very content to post when it comes up to election time and they want to share their, you know, here are our candidates and, you know, this is what we're doing. But really what the residents need is a forum where they can get answers, wouldn't you say? I
agree. I mean, just know that, you know, with Facebook, if I'm tagged, you know, I mean, if somebody writes my name and I don't know they've written my name, how am I supposed to respond to it? But if I'm tagged in a post, you bet your life that I'm going to not only read it, but I'm going to respond, and I will do my research on it as well.
Yeah, if not social media, then how? How do you communicate with your neighbors?
I mean, there's the monthly meetings, so there's a lot of communication at the township meetings themselves, but we have to be able to get that out to everybody. And I think, I'm sorry to put you on here, but you do a great job with your meeting notes, with your blog. So we can't count on that going forward, but we have to be able to add to that.
Yeah, I haven't been doing those because of not being physically present at the meetings. I feel that if I'm sitting there and I can see all the nuances of what's going on, that's one thing. But if I'm calling in using the GoToMeeting system, which is what I've done since the pandemic, I don't always have so great an audio feed that I feel I can provide those kinds of notes.
Right.
But, hopefully we'll get back to some form of normal and I can get back to doing that at some point.
It is a great service, by the way, and I've heard other people talk about how they read those blog notes consistently. That's how they get their information.
This is the other problem that you have with the communication from the township via those official channels, is that the meeting minutes cannot be released until they are approved,
right.
And they are not approved until the next meeting, which is typically a month after the meeting itself. So it's a very jammed up process for getting the communication out there. And I don't see a particular willingness in the township to address that. I mean, there would be ways, I think, where they could legally send out a quick bulletin before the meeting minutes were actually released, but we don't basically get anything like that from them. Does anyone else in the audience have a question? Tina?
Hi. I wanted to say that first, I do agree with the social media. I think that's a great outlet. Unfortunately, there's a lot of us who cannot make it to those meetings, so we're missing out on a lot of the information. A lot of our younger families also very big on social media. So if we could, get out there and get the communication that way, that would be awesome. The problem with Hainesport Happening is that page in particular, that group, is that if something is said that maybe somebody doesn't care for, you can be blocked, you can be deleted. And again, we're only getting half information. Okay. With that being said, my big thing is communication. I live in Claremont. I'm sure you all know what that means. We have a thing going on right now with squatters. I'm going to agree that these houses that are abandoned should be purchased. I don't think that you should just put people with low income in one area. I'm a single mom. I do the best I can, working many hours to support my daughter. I don't want to be lumped in a low income household. I don't want to be put in some corner somewhere. I want to be in a nice community, a nice area where my daughter can play with many other kids her age. We're not just sort of stuck in one spot. These areas, there's so many homes that can be cleaned up, fixed up. It would make our community look a lot nicer. When these areas are abandoned, the yards are not necessarily being upkept, and it looks terrible. These storefronts, yes, they need to be cleaned up as well. But the big thing is, just getting out there and getting information. What we find here in Claremont is, because we're dealing with the squatters, and personally, I honestly don't care that they're not paying bills. I don't care that they're squatting and living for free. Everyone deserves a home. They deserve a place to live. Their children deserve an education. They deserve a nice community. The problem I have is we're not getting the information. We've been to the town meetings. We've put the information out there. We've asked for help, and here we are. We still don't know what's going on. I know that there's been some communication, but me personally, I don't know what's going on. I don't know when we're gonna get them out. Meanwhile, we still have drugs running in and out of this area, and yes, we do. I'm sorry. It's become a nice little drug area over here. This used to be a really nice little area, which is what brought me to this particular area. We can't let our children wander out of sight because of the dogs that are attacking people. So it's just the communication. We need to know what's going on. We want to know what's going on. We have our own Facebook group because of it. And again, we're just not getting the information.
Right.
So communication is a huge thing for us right now.
I agree, and I feel for you guys. I think you're also looking at like health issues, right? Because from what I understand, if there's no running water or electricity, then the people that are living in that home they're using facilities outside the house, and I haven't been over there, but I believe it smells really bad, and it's probably attracting, I don't know if it's attracting insects or other kinds of animals that are unwanted, but it's not a safe situation. And I'm kind of surprised that the state police aren't able to do anything. I think
not.
it brought up, that they have squatters' rights,
Yes.
but I'm not a lawyer, so don't take this, as gospel. But I read that you don't acquire squatters' rights until you've been in a facility for 30 years. So I don't think they have been in that house for 30 years. If they've been in there for 6 months or a year, 2 years, they don't have squatters' rights, and they should be able to be removed from that home, especially if there's health issues and issues with dogs that are attacking children. I don't understand how that is not being resolved. So yes, communication.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm totally on board with that. And people, you'll see, I'll probably talk too much. I'll probably be told by the solicitor that I can't say the things that I'm going to be saying. But I believe that knowledge is power, and we need to know what's going on.
And I understand that the dog at the house bit someone, and that our animal control didn't take the dog away. Is that right?
So yes, the dog bit someone. It was reported to the state police, animal control, who we didn't want in our area. We tried very hard against that. We were overruled, unfortunately. But yes, they came out twice in one night and decided, I don't want to be involved. I know these people from where they previously lived. They're hard to deal with. I don't want to deal with them. And he just walked away. So meanwhile, the dog stayed there. I don't know if they're currently there. We haven't seen them, but they were there, and they had gotten out since, and just nothing's been done. And yes, they're they burn a lot of things outside. So there's constant smells coming. I mean, we all have little fires here and there, but they're burning stuff. I don't know what it is. And yes, there's been rumors that they don't have facilities indoors, so they are using facilities outdoors.
Wow. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we could have done better with our animal control officer. So many people came to the meetings and personally voiced their concerns about that. And fell on deaf ears, and the work wasn't put on. I don't know.
Definitely something to work towards anyway.
Absolutely.
It's on your platform, isn't it, Jim and Dave, to make sure we do more work to get ethical contracts?
Absolutely.
At the very least, you should be safe in your neighborhood, and having a competent animal control officer is a key component of that.
Absolutely.
Another thing I want to add to that, Tina, is that all of the candidates I've worked with throughout the last 4 years have taken a vow not to block residents on Facebook. And we do not do that, at the risk of sometimes being attacked ourselves. We do not block residents. The incumbents, because they have been in power for a long time, seem to feel that they have the right to shut residents up, but we would never do that. And Jim and Dave, please speak to that if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's unheard of. I mean, when I found out that I was blocked by a member of the committee, I'm like, how can you do that? How can you go on Hainesport happenings and possibly speak about matters in Hainesport and I can't see it? I'm a resident in Hainesport too. I mean, if you have a personal issue with me, that's fine. But you don't. If you're in power, if you have office, township office, you do not block people on social media. That's just my opinion. I mean, obviously they're free to do what they want to do, but I think it's wrong.
I've been blocked by somebody in the community too, and it's not someone that I've said anything negative about. And I constantly feel behind and uninformed. I hear all these things secondhand, like
maybe do. I never post anything that's negative toward anybody. I don't attack people. So to find out that I was blocked was just kind of shocking.
Maybe at an official social media platform from the Hainesport Township itself is due.
What would you think of that, Tina? Do you think that's a good idea to have an actual official Hainesport Township Facebook page?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea because then you can hear both sides of this, of whatever the issue is. You're not just getting the one side and then the other side's blocked, so you don't get to decide for yourself. You're hearing one side. I mean, that's, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think if we came up with something, again, that's sort of an area that can, you know, things can be discussed by both sides, I think that'd be great. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for your question.
Appreciate it. Who else would like to speak, has a question or a comment about what subjects we're talking about, or anything new? Well, in that case, I will fill in the void, because I would like for Jim to explain what it means on our platform when we say that we would lobby Trenton to fix the loophole which allows the MHMUA to exploit Hainesport residents.
It's a great question. Thank you, Anna. So this is kind of enlightening. As I don't know how many people know this, but utility authorities, they're not allowed to profit from the services that they provide. However, if there's a surplus, there's New Jersey state law that allows those authorities to give money back to their town. All right, so in our case, you have Mount Holly, providing the services to Mount Holly and to Hainesport and Lumberton and other surrounding towns. And if there's a surplus, Mount Holly gets that surplus. So what Mount Holly does is, or what the MHMUA does, is they'll raise their rates. Now, I believe we pay a little bit more than Mount Holly residents. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anna. So Hainesport pays more, surrounding towns, we pay more into the MHMUA. And I think that's done purposefully now, because Mount Holly is budgeting into their annual budget this surplus, which is totally unfair to us. You know, it's wrong. It's legal, but it's wrong. You know, so I think that's something we should definitely go to Trenton and ask if there's anything they can do to close that loophole. If there's a surplus, all the towns should get money back. You know, not just Mount Holly. That's my intention.
Thanks, Jim. There's a contract that says that all of the service towns pay, I think it's 25% more, or no, it's 50% more, I think, than Mount Holly. But the problem is that about 4 years ago, they raised the prices so that they could generate a surplus, which they then suck into the Mount Holly Township budget. And nobody, when the people who made those laws in Trenton didn't expect for that situation to arise. They were envisaging a municipal utilities authority which serviced its own town and would then, if there was a surplus, take that back into the township budget. But what we have is a municipal utilities authority that services 5 towns, charges them more than its own town, and then takes the surplus back into it.
Not only that, but I think it was around 10 years ago that they forced homes that had perfectly good septic systems to move to sewer, to city sewer. And then now they're getting charged astronomical rates, you know, for sewer. So
we pay in Hainesport, we have some of the most expensive sewer fees in South Jersey. I mean, it's not just Hainesport, it's Hainesport, West Hampton, East Hampton, I think, and Lumberton.
Yeah,
but
I mean, you see people complain about that all the time on Hainesport happenings, right? Oh, did you see your sewer bill? You know, it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars, you know, every quarter, and you know, it adds up.
Well, if you compare the prices to neighboring Mount Laurel,
right,
we pay something like 2 or 3 times what they pay on average.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Thank you for your question, Hannah.
Yeah. Who else would like to speak or has a question for the candidates? Or Dan, would you like to say something?
Just a couple of observations. One, on the incident with the dog, I was just looking here and I can get the information. I guess the police come out when the incident occurs, but there's an animal control officer, and I was just looking on my phone, covers about 9 towns. They're in groups, and Hainesport is in one of them. I'll get you guys the name and the phone number. We just had an incident like that in my development here in Delran. and a dog attacked another dog. The police did take the dog away. They took it to a vet to have it tested. The vet made a determination, that the dog was not, the dogs were not violent. I don't know how they made that determination. Sometimes, animals are not, with dogs, they're not socialized to other dogs. So the dog will be fine in your house, it'll be fine with your family, but it sees another dog, it's going to get into a fight or worse with it. So I'll get you guys that information. There's the phone number you can call. It would bypass the police. I don't understand why if a dog attacks somebody, they wouldn't want to take action. Obviously, if it did it once, it could do it again. It becomes a public safety issue. On the affordable housing, when I was on council here in Delran before becoming freeholder, we were sued by a group called Fair Share Housing. And negotiations, we reached an accommodation. But I wanted to tell you, I was surprised. The criteria for low to moderate income for a family of four is $80,000 a year. And I know we thought that, we were kind of surprised. I think everybody has an idea that it's a lot less money than that, and it isn't. And then to the idea that you guys were discussing about trying to take abandoned homes. In Delran, we passed a couple of ordinances. You have people, they could be banks, they could be mortgage companies that may own these abandoned properties. And they're not being good neighbors. And what we did is we made any abandoned home in town, they're required to register the house with the town. I think our initial fee for that was $100. The next year when you had to renew, it goes up and it goes up, because we actually tried to reach out to some banks and mortgage companies and they wouldn't even talk to us. All of a sudden, as soon as some money got involved, then all of a sudden the homes started to be marketed. Same thing with if they're not living up to the standards that are set by the town. We passed an ordinance. If you don't mow the grass, we give you a warning. You don't take action within time, we send Public Works in. Public Works will take care of that, but then we put a lien on the house. And that's another way to get an attention of an absentee landlord or a mortgage company that is just sitting there waiting for the market to rebound instead of trying to market these homes and get them occupied. There's nothing worse in a community than having empty homes. You can get those homes on the market and get them filled. And Tina, to your point, everybody needs a place to live. We have a homeless problem in Burlington County and in New Jersey and across the country. So there's some ideas that you can do. And anytime you guys would like to talk, I'd be more than happy to sit down and discuss some of those ideas with you.
Great, thank you.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Dan. That sounds like something, though, that like if our current committee were being proactive, they could be already doing that, right?
Absolutely.
So that's something that you guys, like, if hopefully you get in, then you can really take that and run with it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Who else would like to ask a question?
I have something to say, not necessarily a question as much of a statement, but Jim and Dave can speak to this. As a resident who has been past and present, or blocked by past and present mayors and committee members, I appreciate that you guys consistently respond to people's questions and concerns on Hainesport happenings. I think it's a great thing. There seems to be, and I pay pretty close attention to Hainesport happenings, and there seems to be a general distrust of the committee from the standpoint of not knowing what's going on. The recent housing issue was a big thing. People felt like they weren't properly informed or they didn't know about it. Look, there's two of you running. If you guys both win, you're not going to have a majority in the township. I don't know what the concern is to have a little balance on the committee. It's been 26 or more years maybe of
25 years.
all one-party control. You couple that with people's questions about what's going on behind closed doors and not knowing. You can't say that that it's a bad thing to have the opposing party on the committee because then things are going to not go the way they want. Like I said, it's just two people on a committee of 5. You're not going to have a majority rule. So, but at least let's get some more openness, some more transparency in there. And, I think the town can benefit from that. And I think a lot more people would feel better kind of knowing what's going on behind closed doors.
Definitely. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it can't hurt to have some fresh eyes on that committee. Yes, if it's just the two of us, how much change can we do? That we can always be outvoted. But you can be sure that there's going to be transparency. So sure, what they do behind closed doors might be legit, absolutely. But I want to know, I want to know for sure. And the only way to really do that is to have an opposing party to provide those checks and balances.
Yeah, we can't change a lot being 2 on 5, but we can add new perspectives and opinions, and at the very least, when people have questions, it's going to get answered. Now, I mean, and respectfully, and even if it's not the answer people want to hear, I'm always going to answer any question that comes up to me. And I mean, I think everybody knows by now you can't shut me up. Yeah, at the very least, more transparency.
Can I chime in?
Absolutely.
To that end, what is being done as far as a get out the vote or whatever? I mean, besides the problems with the current leadership, 26 years of the committee being structured the way it is, I mean, there's got to be some reflection of the voters in this town. So what can we do to excite more Democrats to come out and vote? I'm sorry if I'm putting a partisan spin on that, but you've got to get people to vote for you. And you guys seem like good guys and all, but what can we do to increase turnout?
It's a great question.
Do you want me to take that one, Jim?
Sure. I'll add on to whatever you say. Go ahead.
As it is a partisan question, in case anyone is unaware, I'm the chair of the Hainesport Democrats. So that's kind of touching on my role in this campaign. And so I've crunched all the numbers, and a couple of things, Robert. Is it Robert or Bob? Which would you prefer? Bob, okay. Anyway, a couple of things. So firstly, in 2008, when Obama ran for the first time, he won Hainesport, right? He won Hainesport. So it is doable. And that's the bright light there. He didn't win in 2012, but it was close. In 2016, Trump won, but only by a handful. And I'm literally talking about somewhere between 5 and 10 votes. Trump won. My belief is, my fervent belief is that Biden will win Hainesport in 2020, because there's been demographical change. We have had more young families, more diverse families move in. And the age demographics mean that we've probably lost some people at the higher end of that. So I honestly think Biden will win. So the key message is that we have to make everyone who comes out in Hainesport to vote for Biden vote for the entire Democratic slate, right? So that's Biden, that's Cory Booker, that's Andy Kim, that's the freeholder candidates, which is Pulliam and Singh, and then that's Horowitz and Moats. And we have a lit drop, which will be happening in a week or so, which that is very much the message for. And I will continue to push that message on social media, on my emails, which I think probably most of you already get. That's the push that we're going for. Now, the issue is, of course, that we as a campaign decided that it would be irresponsible to go door to door this year. We can talk about that. I believe that the Republicans have started going door to door, but we just felt that with the pandemic, that it was not going to be the best way of reaching people. But we definitely, everything else is on our radar. And if you have any ideas, we would be very grateful to hear.
Also, I just want to add on to that. Now, take this for what it's worth, but I'm just going to tell you, when I ran in 2018, I'm just going to talk about the primary because we haven't gotten to the general yet. But in the 2018 primary, I ran alone, against Jerry Klaus. I received a little over 200 votes for the primary. Now, again, the primary didn't really mean anything. I wasn't running against anybody in that primary. But fast forward to 2020, Dave and I, in this year's primary, again, we weren't running against any other Democrats, and it didn't really mean as much as well. But Dave and I both received around 700 votes. All right, so that's more than 100% of what I got in 2018. So I think that people are I think number one, mail-in voting is big, right? I think that's going to increase the turnout, and I think people are just more motivated to vote this time around. Now, that doesn't mean we can all relax. We still have to vote, and make sure that your friends and your neighbors vote as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This would go again, I guess, to the person coordinating the campaign or for the party. Is there going to be a drop box for ballots in Hainesport for residents to drop off their ballots? Because the biggest pushback you do hear from the mail-in is the lack of faith in the postal service, and I think the drop box is the best workaround for that to make people comfortable. Is there any plans to have something like that for Hainesport?
So I agree with you. I like the idea of the drop box. There's not going to be a drop box in Hainesport. However, you can bring your ballot to a poll worker and hand it to them. You can also go to the Board of Elections and hand it to the county clerk. I think the closest drop box to us will be in Mount Laurel. That's why
they've changed that. Dan, do you want to speak to that? Because I think they're adding some more drop boxes, correct?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, Anna, I haven't seen, that doesn't mean it hasn't been put out, the list of drop boxes, but I thought there were going to be drop boxes in every municipality, but don't quote me on that. I can find out for you. But I think it was you, Anna, that said you can take your completed ballot, take it to your polling place and drop it off there if you want. There will be a drop box out in front of Joanne Schwartz, our Burlington County Clerk's office, right across from the county office building. But I'm not sure if they've published the list yet, Anna. I just don't know right now.
And Dave,
Right.
you
I
can
have word of mouth that there's going to be one for sure in Mount Holly and one in Lumberton. Not necessarily one in Hainesport, but both Mount Holly and Lumberton are pretty close. So.
Well, the one outside of Joanne's office will obviously be in Mount Holly.
now, as far as the security,
Whether there'd be another one in addition to that, I just don't know.
Dan, I don't know if you can speak to the security of the lock boxes, but would you say that they will be monitored 24/7 by a security camera? And I believe that the lock boxes are going to have 2 locks on them, and that 2 people will need to open them, one being a Republican, one being a Democrat. Is that correct?
I don't know the criteria for that either, Jim. I can tell you this. I've been voting by mail for over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've been putting the ballot in the mail. And I may do it again this year, depending on how early I get it. But I am noticing my mail. I'm one of the older people that's still paying bills by mail with a check. I noticed that where things used to get posted to my checking account within about 3 or 4 days of mailing, are now going 7 to 10 days before they're posting to my account. But no, I just don't know the nuts and bolts. But let me look into that, and I'll get back to you guys and let you know. I just don't know if that information had been published yet or if it's still being discussed.
Yeah, we'll have to keep up to date on that and constantly let people know via social media, either Hainesport happenings or Twitter, Instagram, so that everybody knows how and where they can vote.
You know, Dave, I'm glad you brought up, and I don't mean to change the subject on you. You were talking about social media, and and being blocked. And I doubt if they would do it, but we were warned as freeholders. I have someone that posts these very, very long posts on my Facebook page, my freeholder page. And I was wondering, how they were able to do that, and was it permitted? Anyway, our solicitors told us, as a candidate, as an office holder, we really can't delete these people or block them in any way. It's a violation of free speech. So if that's a candidate that's doing that, now a township form is a different thing, that the admins would have, regulations and rules on how the site is set up. But if it's a candidate in the town and they're doing that, they could be running afoul of the law, and there's court cases and precedents on that.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, great questions, everybody. Has anyone else got something to add to the meeting? Well, it's been a wonderful hour. I really do think that a lot has been discussed. I'll let our candidates, Jim Horowitz and Dave Moats, say some closing words.
I didn't prepare any closing words. I just want to thank everybody, though, for coming out tonight and asking us your questions. I think it's definitely enlightening for me, and I really hope I'm able to get into office so I can better serve you. I was reading the chat, by the way, and I see that there's something going on, between Mike and Tina. I'm glad that it looks like you guys are making some headway there about that property. So,
well, I was just so I'm a lawyer who has some familiarity with housing law.
Okay.
So I had looked up the case while you guys were talking, because I had some idea of what you were talking about, because I'm around Burlington Housing Court a lot. Just we'll leave it at that for professional reasons. So I wanted to see what the disposition of the case was and what the township had done proactively, which they did do the only thing they could do. The bank is the one that's in control of getting rid of the person. They did what they were supposed to do. They filed an ejectment. They got a judgment. But then COVID happened, which stopped the courts from being able to execute on those judgments. And it wasn't until July that the courts made it clear that they could move forward in extreme circumstances. The township joined the lawsuit in September to basically say, this is why this is extreme. There was a motion this week, a motion hearing for the township to join the lawsuit. I don't know how the judge ruled on that, but knowing Judge Harrington the way I suspect as long as there wasn't a valid jurisdictional reason to not allow it, he would definitely allow it. And now that they're involved, they can make the motion. If they are involved, they can make the motion to have the lockout executed. So that's just kind of my take on it. That should definitely not be construed as legal advice or any specifics on the case. I have no specific knowledge or connection to the case at all. It's just my take on reading real quick what their lawyer had submitted.
Got it. Well, thank you.
That's just another circumstance of where communication fell apart from the township level.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the thing. They should be making it clear that they are doing something, and if you look at the larger of the two files, they included the petition from they had 500 residents sign off on a petition about this. That's included in that. And maybe putting out a little release on the Hainesport or whatever you guys call it would have helped. People say, hey, look, they took this seriously. They spent the money on the lawyers to do this. You guys are paying for those lawyers, and the lawyer did what the lawyer's supposed to do. It looks like it's good legal work. But yeah, so I just want because that's my expertise. I figured I'd look it up and share it for you guys.
And if Tina can correct me, but I'm pretty sure the 500 signatures was from the residents, and it's not. They took it upon themselves to actually bring that up.
Yes, myself and a couple of the residents over here took to the streets. went door to door, had some signatures. We also posted something on Hainesport Happenings and in our Claremont page and had people sign it virtually as well. Again, thank you, Michael, for the friendly information. I appreciate that. And again, my take was never that they were here and shouldn't be here. My take was always the concern of the children and the communication breakdown, and also the fact that, you know, this child needed rabies shots because they couldn't prove that the dog had been vaccinated.
Right.
So that right there, the dog should have been on a hold. The dog should have been taken and put on a hold. He was not. There should have been more involvement. There should have been better communication. So, but yes, we did a lot of work to try to, you know, bring it to the attention of the township, the bank, whoever would listen.
Great.
Thank you again, Michael.
Yeah, and yeah, you guys were talking, there's not really a squatter's right per se, but in New Jersey, if you are staying somewhere, you have at least a mild right that deserves a hearing, which is an ejectment hearing, which is different than a landlord-tenant hearing, where there's much more rights given to the tenant. So it's not like they're treated like a tenant per se, but there is an occupancy right, and they are, you know, they are entitled to a day in court, and they're entitled to 3 days notice before they're locked out. The only reason I can see that they're not locked out by now is honestly COVID, because the governor's order was pretty broad and covered ejectments. And the reason why ejectments were important to cover is that's how most people get kicked out on a foreclosure matter. So your house gets foreclosed, it gets sold, the bank that takes over the mortgage then gets you ejected. So having ejectments covered as part of the governor's order was very important, but you end up with situations like this that fall into cracks. And that's where showing that this is an emergent public health risk is the best way to get this in front of a court, so that they'll actually send a sheriff's officer out there to execute a lockout order.
These people are also professionals. They're professional squatters. They're from Pemberton, and they also have a home. I believe they're squatting in Mount Holly. So they're professionals. They know all of this stuff. They probably know their rights and the laws better than, you know, most of us do. So
yeah, I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that, again, for professional reasons, things that I know about this case that I can't disclose. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that the characterization you had there, Tina. I wouldn't disagree with it.
Great. Well, that's been a very useful exchange of ideas, I think, on this particular subject matter in this case. And I'm very grateful to you, Michael, for your expertise, and Tina, for sharing the problem. Does anyone have any last words? Dave, did you want to say a quick thank you and goodbye?
Yeah, you know, I just wanted to talk about that Jim and I like to get up there and amplify people's voices for their concerns and their individual communities and things that they need and things that they see important, and increase communication and we'd also like to put some work in and build some community events and you know, I'm tired of going to Mount Holly and RV and Mount Laurel to do things that we could and should be doing here.
Yeah, I actually thought of this kind of today. I was like, we have a lot of musicians in Hainesport. Why not like put together like a battle of the bands or some kind of a festival at the municipal complex where we have like an all-day event, bring in food trucks, you know, the community get together and just hang out and just listen to music. Obviously, this is after COVID, you know, when we return to somewhat normalcy. But it's, you know, I just want to present these kinds of ideas that get the community together.
Yes.
You know, I mean, we're as a nation, we're too divided, and I think in Hainesport we're divided also. It's time to start uniting, you know. And music is the great unifier.
And Jim, was it you that brought it up when you ran last time 2 years ago? Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Community, no.
We call it community center.
No.
Not the town center.
No. A group that works with businesses to build up.
The commerce, the Chamber of Commerce. That was, am I still on? Yeah, Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, that was the idea.
Yeah, that was soundly shut down.
But if you were elected, it might not be, right?
We'll see.
That's the next step. Let's get these guys elected on the Hainesport committee. Let's get representation for the Democrats, but also for people who have problems that they are not feeling heard. Because I guarantee that Jim and Dave will represent you regardless of whether you vote for them. They will hear you, they will listen, and they will make sure that something is done. Yeah.
100%.
And I think Dan had his hands up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to both of you, Jim and Dave, and I see Louis on here also. Thanks for stepping up and being willing to do this. You're running in a very challenging time with not really being able to go door to door where, you know, I've talked with some other townships that see what they're doing, and my friends in organized labor, they're doing lit drops. They're not gonna interact at the door with people. And for you two, I found when I ran in Delran, going to the door, while it's very time consuming, it was the best way for me to find out what the residents and my neighbors and friends were thinking about. And unfortunately, that's being taken away. But, you know, you can substitute it with social media. There's some caveats. You got to watch yourself there because, you know, the problem I have with social media is you can't detect tone. If you hear my voice right now, you know whether I'm being serious, whether I'm being sarcastic. And sometimes that's lost on social media. And when you think you're communicating, you're not communicating as well as you'd like to think. But I just wanted to say, you know, thank you to both of you for being willing to step up. And Louis, thanks again for you running last time. And Anna, thank you for the invite to be here tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank
So
you.
glad to join us, Dan, I really do. And thank you all to the Hainesport residents who joined us as well. I mean, it wouldn't have been a meet and greet without some people who wanted to be meeting the candidates. So I just really appreciate everyone coming to join us for this last hour. Jim and Dave, great job. Everyone, thank you for coming and have a fantastic evening.
Thank you, Anna. I also think it's probably good to note that we did record this meeting.
Right.
We're going to be putting it up on our Facebook page. It's going to go up on our YouTube page also, which many people don't know about, but you will. And so even if people haven't been here live, they'll be able to watch this recorded.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
everybody.
much.
Everybody,
Appreciate it.
have a
Bye-bye.
great Thanks, Dan,
Thank
again.
you. Nice
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Tina.
guys.
Appreciate your contribution. Thank you, Michael, for your expertise. Thanks,
Oh,
Matt.
you're welcome. I'm sorry, I'm not a Hainesport resident, so I can't vote for y'all, but I'll support you any way I can.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem, guys.
All right.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.